Chapter 4, Internet Security. How secure are you online? You need to be able to explain how the Internet and email work. You're going to need to be able to describe how attackers can use mobile code, cookies, and fraudulent digital certificates. You need to be able to list the security risk with using email. Describe how to use web browser settings to create stronger security, and list several different email defenses. Let's look at how the Internet works. Basically, the worldwide set of interconnected computer servers and networks is one giant network. It's composed of networks to which devices are attached. It's not owned or regulated by any organization or government entity, and computers loosely cooperate to make the Internet a global information resource. Your World Wide Web, or WWW, as it's better known as the web, is the server computers that provide online information in a specific format. Some of those specific formats are your HTML or your HTML. That's your hypertext markup language. And this allows web authors to combine text, graphic images, audio, video, and hyperlinks. With your web browsers, and there's several different ones, it's used to display the words, the pictures, and other elements on a user's screen. Here's an example of HTML, how the computer sees it, and how your web browser sees it. With the web, you have your different type of hypertext. You have your Hypertext Transport Protocol, which is HTTP. If you see an S at the end of that, that means it's secure. Your HTTP is your standards or your protocols used by web servers to distribute HTML documents. Everybody has kind of agreed to play on the same playing field. You have your subset of Transmission Control Protocol with Internet Protocol Standards, and this is your TCP/IP. You have your specific port number that's used. It identifies the program or services being requested. Typically, port 80 is used as your standard port for your HTTP transmissions. You typically leave port 80 open so that you can get your web pages. Your web pages using port numbers, as your computer is going to send out its request on port 80, and you're going to get your information back on port 80. Your web can transfer and store processes. Your entire document is transferred, then stored on the local computer before the browser displays it. It may get it in sections, or it brings up the whole thing at once, and you typically don't see any parts missing. This creates opportunities for sending different types of malicious code to the user's computer, because those different pieces of the document can have code attached to it. With our emails, it's estimated that 100 trillion email messages are sent annually. Just think about that, 100 trillion. You have different protocols that are used for email. You have SMTP, or your Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. What that does is it typically handles your outgoing mail. When you hit send, it's using SMTP to send your information. Typically, you're going to use POP or POP3 to retrieve your email, but not always, but that is typical. It's called Post Office Protocol. Here we have an email sender. It sends out on port 25 to your SMTP service. It's going to go across the Internet, and it may hit another SMTP server. Then it hits your POP3 server, and that's on port 110, before it gets to the person who is supposed to receive that email. Some examples of your email is the sender uses clients such as Outlook to compose and address a message. Outlook connects to the SMTP server, let's say at mail.source.com using port 25, and then it passes the message along. The SMTP server divides that address into the recipient's name and the domain name, and then it passes the message to the destination domain. The SMTP server at the domain destination then hands the message to the POP3 server for delivery. You may have IMAP, or the Internet Mail Access Protocol, or IMAP4. It's a more advanced mail protocol. Email is not downloaded to the user's computer. The mail is organized into folders and read from any computer. This is your web-based email. You have email attachments, and these documents are connected to an email message. It's encoded in a special format, and it is sent in a single transmission with the email message itself. Some of the internet security risks that go along with this is you have mobile codes, cookies, there's fraudulent digital certificates, there's drive-by downloads and redirecting web traffic, and then of course your email risk. If we look at mobile code, it's used to view modern web content, and it is obtained from an external source outside your computer security parameters. It's executed on your computer without your express approval. Some examples of mobile code are JavaScript, Java, and ActiveX. With JavaScript, this is one of the most popular mobile codes. It's embedded in HTML documents. It's executed by the browser. Some of the defense mechanisms in place to prevent JavaScript programming from causing malicious serious harm is that JavaScript cannot read, write, or delete files from a local computer. It can capture and send user information without your knowledge, but it cannot read, write, or delete files from your local computer. Java is a complete programming language, and it's used to create small applications called applets. And a Java applet is stored on a web server and downloaded to the user's computer. It can perform interactive animations, mathematical calculations, or other tasks very quickly. It does require a software component called a plugin to actually execute. The different types of Java applets: you have your signed, and this indicates a program is from a known source and has not been altered. Your unsigned does not come from a trusted source. It runs in a security sandbox. It's kind of out there playing nicely together, and it cannot access specific resources on the computer. Then we have ActiveX. It's a set of rules for how Windows applications should share information. It does not run in that sandbox. And Microsoft developed a registration system. It's both signed and unsigned. Some of the ActiveX security concerns is that users' decisions to allow or disallow is based on source, not content of the control. And malicious ActiveX control can affect all users of a computer. You have cookies, and these are user-specific information file that's created by the server. It's stored on your local computer. Your first-party cookie is created by the website the user is currently viewing. Third-party cookies often come from the website advertisers, the ones you see over in the outside edges or the banners. They're used to tailor advertising to a user. Have you ever noticed that you can be surfing the web for different things? You may open up your Facebook and all of a sudden you start seeing ads relating to the items that you just searched on the computer. These are how the third-party cookies work. It's tailoring the advertising to you. Flash cookie cannot always be deleted through a browser's configuration setting. Security and privacy risk of cookies. Your first-party cookies can be stolen and used to impersonate the user. And the third-party cookies can be used to track users' browsing and buying habits. Next, let's talk about fraudulent digital certificates. When you use your credit cards for online purchases, you open yourself up to fraud. To protect security, data is scrambled using cryptography, and in your book, Figure 4.6 illustrates the cryptography process. You can have a public key cryptography that uses two keys, one public and one private. You also can have digital certificates, and that associates a user's identity with that public key. It verifies the owner and key belonging to that owner, and the trusted third party issues a certificate. You have web servers digital certificates. It ensures the authenticity of the web server. It ensures the authenticity of the cryptographic connection. It says that it's secure. Web servers set up secure cryptography connections. All transmitted data is encrypted. Server's public key is provided to the client along with a digital signature. Some of the types of attacks that you may have is theft of valid digital certificates. At one time, 500 digital certificates were stolen from a Dutch firm, so that can cause issue. The creation of rogue digital certificates, where an attacker can pretend to be from a trusted third party and they're gathering your information. You may have drive-by downloads. These can be initiated by simply visiting a website. You didn't ask for it to download anything, but simply by going to that website, it started a download. Attackers identify well-known websites, and they attempt to inject malicious content by exploiting the vulnerable applications within that website. Content is virtually invisible to the naked eye. You wouldn't notice it. Web visitors' browser downloads code. The code instructs the computer to visit the attacker's website. Malware is downloaded and automatically installed and is executed on your computer. Common user mistakes when entering Common user mistakes when entering a website address is misspelling the website, omitting a dot, omitting a word. You may have incorrect punctuation, and attackers can exploit these mistakes. An attacker registers similar sounding websites, and they may trick the user into believing it's authentic, and the user may enter personal or credit card information before they realize it's not a legitimate site. Some of our email risk, we have spam. That's basically unsolicited email. You know how your snail mailbox will fill up with junk mail? That's what spam is. It's estimated that 90% of all email is spam, and it is a lucrative business. You can put on spam filters to where you're blocking email containing specific words. You may also block emails that are sent to mass email addresses. You have an image spam, and it uses graphical images of text to circumvent the text-based filters that are in place. Some of the effects of spam is you have lost productivity. Money spent on spam filtering software isn't cheap. And then there's the wide distribution of malware through spam that now you have to go in and clean up. There may be malicious attachments to your email. These are files sent with the email. When an attachment is open, it runs the virus, it infects the computer, and it may replicate itself and send out more emails to everybody in your contact list. There may be embedded hyperlinks in your email. The hyperlinks contained within the email message body itself may direct you to the attacker's website. It may display only words, and it hides the address of the actual site. Also, attacker sites may look like legitimate sites, but they're just there trying to gather your information. Some internet defenses, there are several types. You can configure your web browser settings, and you can use different email defenses. When you configure your web browser, they are highly customizable, and you want to use the customization to fit your needs. For example, in Microsoft Internet Explorer security settings categories, you have advanced security settings, security zones. You can restrict the cookies, and you can restrict the pop-ups. Here's an example of the Internet Explorer security settings. The other web browsers also contain security settings that you can set. Descriptions of some of the options: do not save encrypted pages to disk. This prevents an attacker from retrieving sensitive pages. You can empty your temporary internet file folder when the browser is closed. That way you don't have a history of where you've been. You can warn if changing between secure and not secure modes, so that you know if the sites you're going to are secure or not secure. You have security zones. These are users may want to apply the same settings for all websites, but you may want to set up certain ones that are more secure than others. You can restrict your cookies. Most browsers allow users to configure this. Some of the settings are allow all cookies to be set. You can block those third-party cookies only. Remember, those are the ones who are collecting information for advertising. You can block sites from creating a cookie, and you can keep cookies only until the browser is closed. With your pop-up blockers, you can allow the user to limit or block pop-ups. Users can set blocking levels. Messages appear when a pop-up is blocked. And you want to keep this in mind if you're doing online classes. Sometimes with the online class, you may not see the material that you need because you have your filter set and it's blocking all pop-ups. And what the instructor needs you to see is showing up as a pop-up. So you may want to check on that. Some of our email defenses is we have spam filtering can be put in place. You have security settings and client-based email programs that can be set up, and you can secure your attachments. Some of the spam filters can be implemented on a user's computer or at a corporate or ISP level. Your email client spam filter settings, you can block certain senders, allow only certain senders, or you can have a list of the top blocked domain list. Email security settings, you want to read messages using a reading pane. Malicious script is not activated in the reading pane. It is only activated when you open that mail. You can block external content. You can use an email postmark, and this prevents rejection by spam filters. Your attachments. Some email clients can allow preview of an attachment without opening them. With Microsoft Office 2010 attachment protections, the attachments open in protected view, which is read-only mode, and it disables editing functions, and then users can enable editing. Table 4.3 gives you the Internet Security Best Practices. You need to read over these and understand these. Okay. So in summary, the Internet is composed of a worldwide set of computers that are all connected. You have your computers and your servers and your various networks. The dynamic web content requires mobile code for JavaScript, Java applets, and ActiveX. A cookie file contains user-specific information stored by a website on the local computer. Remember, you have first and third level cookies. You have a drive-by download can infect a user's computer by just viewing a web page. And then email is a common means of distributing malware attacks. Some of your defenses against the internet attacks include configuring your browser settings and configuring your email client settings.